All right, so today we're going to talk about something. You've heard the terms karmic soulmate, and then a twin flame. And everyone is throwing these words around like they're interchangeable. And honestly, nobody is actually explaining what any of this feels like on the inside, like what it feels like to actually be experiencing it. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to break down all three of these from my perspective as an intuitive reader and from personal experience. These are soulmate connections that I could see the energy of it. I know the stories of them. I know people who have been in them and I've experienced them all myself personally. And so my hope is at the end of this episode, you will walk away, if nothing else, feeling more seen and more understood. Because one thing about being in a soulmate connection, isolation or feeling isolated is a really big thing because you cannot talk about this with somebody who hasn't experienced it. And so I understand that having labels and some type of definition to kind of hang your hat on is really, really helpful. So that is my goal to do with you today. So let's start with karmic connections because this one it gets the most dramatic reputation and I feel like it's a little misunderstood. When most people hear karmic, they immediately think danger, red flag, run, toxic, on and off, passion and destruction. And it can definitely go there, but that's just not the whole picture. So, with a karmic connection, I think the most prominent thing that you would feel the fastest is chemistry. It's immediate chemistry. Like if you could picture in your mind your idea of the perfect person physically, mentally, emotionally, and what it would feel like to make eye contact with that person, that's what a karmic connection would feel like. Is very much it's like an intense pull. Um, it's like the person just they see you, right? You see each other, but the chemistry is the biggest thing. Now, with karmic connections, the reason why they get like a really bad rep is because they can tend to feel the most chaotic, not to be confused with other soulmate relationships that still have drama, still have off and on, like not perfect, but there's something with karmic connections that just pulls the fire out of you. Like it it pulls the passion out of you, like the biggest fights, the hardcore emotions. And it's because of that initial chemistry. Because that chemistry is so strong, it will cause bigger blowups. It's not a lot of telepathy that you would have with a karmic connection, like you may have with the other soulmate relationships. And when I say if you don't know what telepathy is, it's when you're able to kind of communicate with one another without using words. Like it's it's still intense, it's still a pull, but it's lighter. It wouldn't feel that much different from a non-soulmate relationship outside of that chemistry tugging and pulling on you. That's the part that keeps it lingering. That's the part that makes you think about them all the time and wanna call them all the time. And it's not to downplay a karmic connection. They definitely serve a purpose, um, but usually karmic connections tend to trigger parts of you that sends you into fight or flight mode. And when you're in fight or flight mode, it puts you in survival mode. So the fights can get pretty rough. The downtimes can get pretty rough. The breakups can feel a little rough. Um, but yeah, that's just what it is. That's the intention, that's the purpose. And if you come across a karmic connection, please understand you definitely were meant to. Now, a soulmate connection. And they're all soulmate connections, but this one is actually labeled soulmate connection. Um, this is the one that's my favorite to talk about because it feels very different from what people would expect. When you meet a soulmate, like you hear a lot of stories, probably not personal stories. You've probably seen it in movies, you probably read it somewhere that there's this instant moment with them, right? Which is funny because karmic connections are most more likely to have that moment than a soulmate connection. There are so many instances where people are around their soulmate and they don't even pay them any attention. It's funny because it's kind of like there's this need to be in a certain alignment with each other's energy before you can kind of recognize it. And I spoke about this on a video that I had posted in the past, but I had a client once who was dating this guy, and it was just bugging her because they felt they were each other's soulmates. But what was messing her up was they had known each other for a while before they kind of felt that spark and that attraction. And the thing is, the thing about their energy was in the past, they they would meet each other, they would see each other, they would like they had a lot of mutual friends, so they would see each other from time to time, and it was just very casual. It's like, oh yeah, I know him, I know her, hi and bye. And then when the time was right, when the energy was right, when they were in alignment, that's the day that they looked in each other's eyes and then felt that moment, that spark. And that's very, very common. So, just FYI, if you've been in a similar situation and you've known this person for a long time and it took 4 or 5 years for y'all to get to that point, that's not uncommon. Now, you also have your situations where you would meet a soulmate for the first time and you touch hands, and it's more common to physically respond to a soulmate, but it's not in that dramatic chemistry way. It's more in a safety way. It's more of a you look at them and it's like you feel comfortable, you feel seen. And it should go both ways. They feel the same way, whether or not they are open to acknowledging or admitting that. It's never one sided. Um, you feel it's like a friendship, a loving family member, and a lover all in one. It does not feel heavy. It doesn't feel red flaggish, at least not, in the very beginning. That initial moment feels very right. Another common thing with soulmates is you've possibly saw them in your dreams before you met them. Um, you're able to have conversations with them without saying a word. Like you just really know each other. You know how the other one thinks. You understand. Like a corny joke might be funny to the two of you and nobody else in the room. Um, it's just familiar and it feels right and it's warm. And now soulmate connections still don't go perfect because a soulmate will still trigger your soul to grow. A soulmate will still push you to expand yourself, and that's never comfortable. So even though that initial first month, the initial 4 to 5 months may feel like complete bliss, eventually it will get to a point where you will start to challenge one another. And it throws people off because they think, well, how am I supposed to know they're my soulmate if it soulmates do that. Soulmates do that. There is no perfect. And that's the thing that people have to really understand. They think because they had a fight or they had a disagreement or they have different perspectives on something, it's not a soulmate, and that's not true. A soulmate is still that person, but you're still two individuals, still two different humans, and you still have to grow and learn and get through challenges together. But it's still an intensity. It's still, e- especially a lot of people, especially if you're like an intuitive person, you meet your soulmate and they tend to like wake up certain spiritual gifts that you may have. You may be more intuitive. I've talked to people who met their soulmate and they started astral projecting in their sleep, like to their house or something like that. Like they really do something to your life in some way, shape, or form. Um, where with a karmic connection, that's not so much, the situation. But all of those things are pretty common with a soulmate connection. Now, for the big one, twin flames. And twin flames are not as common as people think that they are. Funny enough, a lot of karmic connections are mistaken for twin flame connections. Twin flame connections are almost out of this world. Like it's trying to explain the unexplainable. So with twin flames, one sign with them is you do tend to look alike. I had a reading with a woman once, and her twin flame, they actually had very similar features. And the best way that I can kind of explain a twin flame experience is using them, for example. She had a gray patch in the front of her hair. Not like a birthmark. It was just grays, which like in one side of her head in the front. He had the same one on the other side of his head. They both had the same hair texture. They was the same complexion. They had similar facial features like eyes, nose, lips. The difference is he was like the masculine version, she was the feminine version. Now, one thing that's interesting about twin flames, and I haven't come across this anywhere yet, but I've seen it. They tend to mirror each other's shadow side. What does that mean? So for her, she was very nurturing, very feminine energy. But she had a shadow side that desired kind of like danger in a way, right? Like um there was a feisty side of her that she didn't really show on the outside, but it was in there. Now him, he was a bad boy. He was a bad boy, he was a street boy, but on the inside he desired the softness, the nurturing. And they literally were like two pieces of a puzzle. He represented her if she was in her masculine, and she represented him if he was a feminine. So basically, if they swapped bodies, they would still be the same person. And hopefully that makes sense. It's very hard to explain the twin flame experience. But that's a really good example of what a twin flame is. It's very rare. It's like a 1%. Um, it's not easy. It's not free flowing. It's not simple. It's very intense. It's very intense. You will dream about them. You will see them. You will be able to read each other's minds. You will see each other initially at the first meeting. You will see each other and you will know there's something about them. You will feel like you've met them before. You've had a conversation with them before. It may even go so far as you can picture where you've seen them, even though you may not have never seen them before. Like it gets super freaky like that with them. but still not easy, still not free flowing, still not all good. As long as you're in this human body, you have some growing to do. So the two of you still is going to be some even, some flow. Now, the possibility of you guys working out long term, there's no number I can put on that because everybody is different. And it really depends on how you respond to the experience and the choices that the two of you make. But this will be one of the most intense soulmate relationships that you wouldn't really have to question it. It will be kind of obvious in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, just all the things. Um, you would be able to think them up with ease. You will be able to talk to them and you can be in different countries. And not on the phone. I mean like just through your mind. You can run into each other in your dreams and have a whole conversation and you two will both have the same dream. Like it's super freaky. And it's one of those things that it will scare most people. Even though everyone thinks that they want to find their twin flame, it's pretty it can be a little off-putting. It could be heavy, it could be a lot. um and it's a process, but it's a real thing. So I just broke down all three of these connection types for you, and I do hope that it was helpful, and I hope that it gives you some clarity on your experience. Um, but now I'm going to say something that may be an unpopular opinion. The labels karmic, soulmate, twin flame is the least important part of all of this, and this is why. No matter what type of connection this is, you have to be mindful the minute you put a label on your connection, you stop experiencing it for what it actually is and you start filtering it through what the label is supposed to mean. For example, if you find out somebody is your karmic, now you're preparing for it to end. And that doesn't have to be the case. There are karmic connections who are married and you got to work through it like any other married couple would. But just because it's karmic doesn't mean that it has a certain lifespan on it. You find out it's your twin flame and now you're excusing certain behaviors because you think this is your divine counterpart for the rest of your life and you have to stick it out. Again, not the case. Just because somebody is your twin flame does not mean that you have to spend the rest of your life with them because the other person may be making choices that's just not for the two of you. And you may not want to live the rest of your life trying to prove your love to somebody or prove that you're consistent or prove that you'll never leave them or like we all have wounds in our human form and just because they're like this very rare type of connection that most people don't get to experience, it shouldn't dictate the outcome. Or even let's say you found out somebody is your soulmate and now you're rushing to get to the altar and you're not even in your relationship anymore. You've already jumped ahead to the end of the story because in your mind, because now that they have this label to them, you already had this projected outcome. It's so important, regardless of what kind of connection it is to experience the process. Enjoy the process, cry about the process, grow through the process, push through the challenges together. The most important thing is to be in the relationship, not jumping ahead to what the outcome is going to be. I completely understand why labels exist. When you're in the middle of something you can't fully kind of explain, and when someone finally is able to give it a name, it gives you relief. Like, okay, this is a thing. I'm not crazy. Other people have felt it too. Like, there's a whole community of people who understand what I'm going through. I completely respect that, and I get it, and I understand it. I've been there. But at the end of the day, what matters more than the label is understanding the specific texture of what you're actually in. What is it doing to you? What is doing to them? What is it trying to show you? Where it's actually going? And that's different for every single person because no two connections feel exactly the same, even when they fall under the same label. That's when someone comes to me for a reading, I'm not sitting there trying to figure out which box their connection fits into. I'm feeling the specific energy of what they're in and what's unresolved and what's trying to kind of like cope and break through and what the challenges are. I am not focused on a label. If you're asking for a label, I can give you, based off of the energy that I'm feeling, but that's just not a priority in my readings. Um, because the breakdown of the energy between the two of you will tell you so much more than a label ever could. So here's what I want you to take away from today. Whether you're in a karmic, soulmate, or twin flame connection, or honestly something that doesn't fit neatly into any of these categories, what matters most is understanding what you're actually experiencing and what it means for you specifically. Not the general version, your version. And if you've been sitting with a connection you can't figure out, if you need someone to fill into what you're actually in and tell you what's really there, you know where to find me. I see you the next episode.